Hey folks, Colin Richards here. I'm president and founder of Lord and Richards, and I'm excited to be with you today on this episode of the Lord and Richards Show. And in this particular episode, we're going to be talking about the Bible's teaching concerning giving from 2 Corinthians 8. As you know, here on the Lord and Richards Show, we're talking to you about the problems that retirees and pre-retirees face. And the conversations I'm having every single day are telling me, you know what, we need to be prepared financially for our future. But a big part of that is the blessing of God on your life. We really believe at Lord and Richards that the blessing of the Lord makes rich and he adds no sorrow with it, that there is a kind of wealth that comes from God when we are generous back towards him. And so in 2 Corinthians 8, Paul is going to commend an especially giving group of churches, a wonderful group of people. Listen to what he says to the Corinthian Christians about the Macedonian Christians. We want you to know, brothers, about the grace of God that has been given among the churches of Macedonia. For in a severe test of affliction, their abundance of joy and their extreme poverty have overflowed in a wealth of generosity on their part. For they gave according to their means, as I can testify, and beyond their means, of their own accord, begging us earnestly for the favor of taking part in the relief of the saints. And this, not as we expected, but they gave themselves first to the Lord, and then by the will of God to us. Wow, what a group of people. The occasion is the relief of the saints in Jerusalem. Not only were the saints in Jerusalem being persecuted, but it well may have been related also to a famine that they were experiencing in Judea. And so the church was facing a great test in Jerusalem. And Paul, knowing that he had had opportunity to plant and to build and to be a part of the growth of many of the Gentile churches or the churches in other parts of the Roman Empire, decided this would be a great opportunity for those churches to give towards this need. And besides that, Paul also wanted to see the Jewish community in Jerusalem bound together with their Gentile counterparts, other believers elsewhere. So of the people that Paul ministered to across the Roman Empire, he identifies this as a group that was in a severe test of affliction. These were some of the poorest Christians in the Roman Empire. They themselves could probably have used love gifts from other believers around the world. And yet Paul tells us that they were the ones wanting to give. He didn't even have to ask. And he said, they were the ones who jumped in and begged us for the favor. Their attitude was the grace of God. Notice it says the grace of God given to these churches. When you have an attitude of gratitude that comes from God, it spills over in giving to others. This particular passage has to do with giving to others, but we're really told that they gave themselves to the Lord. So it wasn't just that their money or their possessions were being used to relieve saints, but this was considered by God as a gift to himself. Jesus said if we offer just a cup of cold water in his name, it's like we gave it to him. And so Paul gives this wonderful account of the generosity and the grace of this group. He describes them as being abundantly joyful in it. Think about it. If you're in need yourself, is it an exciting prospect to give away what you have when you yourself are in need? That's how they took it. They begged for the favor. In other words, the grace. They wanted this. They considered this to be something they could do for God, the favor or grace of God, and they begged to do it. And they started with what they could give according to their means, but they just caught fire, and it says they went beyond their means. They gave themselves, and that resulted in God being able to lead them along in the area of giving. Now, let me ask you a couple questions. First of all, if you're among the poor, if you're among those who aren't rich, let's say, should you be giving? A lot of times people feel that, well, until I'm really financially in a better place, I don't think God would expect me to give. I think he does, because there's always those who are struggling more than you. And being generous with what you have, no matter where you are in life. And your generosity may look entirely different from somebody else's. Someone has wisely said, it's not so much what you give that counts in the eyes of God, it's what's left after you give. Consider the story of the widow who cast in her mite. They say it was a big funnel that made noise there at the temple where people would give. And a lot of times the wealthy would come in and you would just hear this huge rush of metal on metal. And then all of a sudden, the Lord is arrested by the sound of just plunk, one mite, the smallest amount of currency. And yet he said, this woman, though she gave the smallest amount of currency, has given more than them all because she gave sacrificially. So the answer is, yeah, we should give, even if we're not as rich as somebody else, if we consider ourselves poor. But I've never seen the righteous forsaken or his seed begging bread. That's right out of the Word of God. And I don't believe God is going to leave you in a place where you're begging. You know what I find? In our lesson last time, we learned from our own Lord's own words about giving to your own enemies, that it will be given back to you with the same measure that you give, it's going to be given back to you. And so as we consider financial independence, which is a big theme at Lord & Richards, it's our word for retirement, being able to do the things that you love with the people that you love for the glory of God, and to do amazing things with the resources he's entrusted to you. These are the kinds of amazing things we're talking about. And it doesn't have to wait until you quit your day job. As a matter of fact, if you would like God to give you the opportunity to do more amazing things, then be faithful with what he's already put in your hands and give. Look for needs and opportunities, especially through your church. For us, for my church that I have the privilege of leading, as well as for our family, we have made the decision at Lord & Richards, our family, our church, that we're going to focus a lot of attention, time, and effort at the most unreached people in the world, some of the poorest of the poor. So we do a lot of work in Southeast Asia and Myanmar and India, where we've built schools for the poor, where we have provided medical and financial relief. We have built buildings and facilities. But all that was done not just for those people, but it was given to the Lord. And so perhaps God would lay on your heart someone whose need might be greater than yours. Let God make you a conduit of blessing. Well, as part of an overall plan, giving is important, but there sure is more that goes into it. And at Lord & Richards, we help you build a comprehensive plan so that you can retire without worry, financially independent, and be a great steward of what God has entrusted to you. I would love to chat with you. I'd love to visit with you and talk to you more. It just starts with a simple phone call.